We are recording the event so that we can use it for future purposes. Now, good afternoon, all participants and distinguished speakers. Today, we are going to have a program on a panel discussion on electrical safety. I am sure that you are aware about the program VIDYUT SURAKSHIT BHARAT ABHIYAN. We were doing a year-long awareness program on various subjects. We started in 26th of June 2021 on this awareness program. And all of us, those who are there on the screen, Mr. Devdas Goswami, James Kutty, Mr. Appavoo, Mr. Vinay Nagdeo, all of us were part of this program. We conducted almost 86 programs, 86 classes were already over. Our target was to reach 100 classes on electrical safety subjects. Now, today is probably the 87th program. Today, we are going to discuss about the various regulations and the how people are interpreting. Of course, the regulation is a big subject. We may not be able to go through the entire regulation. We have asked the participants to make questions on the regulation. As a result, we have selected about 10-12 common questions which will be answered in the program. So here for this panel discussion, we have Shri Mukul Kumar, Assistant Director from Central Electricity Authority. Mr. Mukul.
Namaskar.
Yes, we have Shri Appavoo, Chief Electrical Inspector from Tamilnadu, retired. Welcome, Appavoo, sir. You are on mute. Then we have Mr. Vinay Nagdeo. He is the Superintending Engineer, retired from the Inspectorate Division of PWD in Maharashtra. Unfortunately, for Mr. Vinay, the mic is not working. Probably he is trying to get it rectified. He will join very soon. We have Mr. James Kutty Thomas. He is a retired electrical inspector from the Electrical Inspectorate of Kerala. We have 3 people from the Electrical Inspectorate of the state government, 1 gentleman from the Central Electricity Authority, and finally Mr. Devdas Goswami. He is the retired head of the Standardization Division of the Electrical, IT and the Electronics Division of BIS. He is currently the Senior Advisor to International Copper Association. And now, lastly, myself, I am coordinating this. My name is Kumar. Most of you knows me very well. So with this, we will start the session. We have actually, as I said, we have selected 10 questions, common questions, not 10, little bit more, 1 or 2 more. So these questions we will be answering now. And in addition, the recorded video plus some of the answers we are trying to publish as a blog. For example, one of the questions which we selected is the changeover from DG to generator, regulation number 45, which is always, all India confusing subject. Shri Appavoo has created a very detailed answer, 6-7 page answer. Explaining the whole answer in this in the webinar will be quite difficult. So we make it as a blog. The link will be shared to you. Of course, he will also answer the questions. So to start with, we will go with the first question. The first question is applicability of the IE rule and the CEA regulation. All of us, we should understand that the IE rule 1956. Even today, people are using IE rule. The simple question is IE rule and CEA regulation. Still, engineers are following IE rule. Is it legally valid or not? To answer this question, I would like first to invite Mr. Mukul Kumar and then Mr. Appavoo, sir. Mr. Mukul, your answer, please. You are on mute.
Thank you, sir. Am I audible now?
Yes.
So, speaking legally, IE rules are obsolete. And we have found that some engineers, even utilities, are practicing these IE rules as of now also. We have come across like several communications where they have like communicated that they have complied with this particular IE rules and certain act was there, actions were there which violated certain IE rules. So they have like they are communicating with us that they are like using IE rules, but legally speaking, it is obsolete. It is obsolete on 20th September 2010 when our CA safety regulation came into picture, and it is backed by the Act. If you are reading the section 185, part 2, and it's a part 2 in the clause number C, it is clearly mentioning over there that when the regulations which will be framed under section 53 of Electricity Act, by that day the I rules would be repealed. Now it's something like that. People are fond of traveling in the tram in Kolkata in earlier days. Now it is the option with the people that they want to still continue traveling, commuting in the tram, or they want to switch to metros. Because if we are like going back and staying there, then we are definitely living in the past, and there may be wastage of resource and time. And also with the upgradation of technology and all those things, our CA regulations are up to the mark, and it is complying with the latest technology which is available as of now. So this is from my side, and it is legally binding on all the utilities, on all the persons who are engaged with the electricity use or supply of the electricity.
Yeah, can I add it here?
Thank you very much. Now, Appavoo sir,
Okay,
you are right.
Yes, sir. Yes. Very good evening to all the participants. It's a routine practice that people do not forget that old things, as Mukul Kumar ji expressed. It is customary on the part of they are not able to erase the learned things, unwanted things, and refurbish with the latest thing. This is the only thing. As per section 185 of the Act, it's a repeal section. Any repeal section will make the existing rules as defunct, and it will be replaced by the new regulations. It has already been replaced. But in any repeal, there is a safety measure, because it's as per any repeal is promulgated or ordered in an act with a caution, with a saving clause. That saving clause is applicable for some privileges or rights which are already available under IE rule. For example, a case, there could be a running case before the Honorable High Court or Supreme Court or any other court. So in such cases, the IE rules will be quoted by the arguing people. And another thing, one more thing, important thing is the effect of repeal shall always protect such provisions of to safeguard. In another way, what I can say is, unless there is a special intention, because while there could be some missing or lapses in the regulation, that's why these classes are available. There should be a special intention to abolish. For example, there are few cases while notifying the CA regulation, the fees aspect was ignored. Then there was a large hue and cry between the consumers. We did not pay the fees. Then we came to the rescue. The Repeal Act came to the rescue. The privileges was already available. It was not specifically objected in the regulations. Of course, finally it was included in the state powers of under Electricity Act to provide rules for the fees also. So some stopgap arrangement will always be there in any succession of rules. That's why it is not necessary to quote the IE rules anymore. It's not correct. It's not legally valid. It's in my opinion.
Oh, thank you very much, sir. Thanks for the answer. We have one more distinguished speaker, Mr. LK Rathore, Director of CA. He has raised his hand. I have put him. Sir, you can also unmute and speak if you wish. Rathore ji. Okay. Anyway, I think probably he's not there.
Good afternoon to one and all, sir. Thank you, sir. Basically, Mukul has correctly pointed out that even there is the I rules are the people are mentioning that I rule, but the I rule already repealed after the coming up the our regulation 2010. So there is a no more. It is not the legally correct. Whatever the present regulation that is there, this safety regulation 2010 from the CA. That's okay, sir.
Thank you very much, Rathorji. Mr. Rathor, I would like to introduce to everybody. Mr. Rathor is the director of Central Electricity Authority. Now he is in the director taking care of the Western region and placed in Bombay and taking care of the states in and around Bombay. Thank you very much, Rathorji.
Thank you, sir.
Now we go to the question number 2, which is also of very primary importance in the sense lot of projects are coming in India. I'm sure you are aware. In the sense large projects. Recently, some of the large projects, the references are made not to the Indian regulations or Indian standards. I don't want to name the project, that is why I'm not disclosing. But major project, thousands of crores worth government of India projects. The consultants are of course from Europe and America and probably from somewhere, and they were always referring to the compliance to their national standards rather than Indian standard and Indian regulations. Say, for example, the safety has to be as per the British standard, and something else is from the German standard, some part is from the IEEE standard, and so on. So a lot of participants also asked this question, which we modified a little bit. About the validity of the regulation. The question is, in large projects, compliance to British and American standards are often also private standards, such as the UL standard, NFPA standards are asked for without any compliance to Indian standard. Is it legally correct or is it wrong? The question is for Devdas Goswami ji. Please, we are waiting for your answer, Devdas sir. I hope the question is clear.
Yeah, thank you, Gopaji. This is really a very sad part, I would say, that in Indian territory, somebody is referring British standards, American standards, or any private standards other than Indian standards. Normally, what happens that we tend to get very much, I would say, attracted to something like foreign things. So probably that could be an idea. But as you rightly said, it is not that, not only that, because it is not common public that they are referring to, but there are big consulting firms, those who are executing projects in India. So they may have some interest because this is always, standard is always linked to the trade. So in most cases, these British standards, American standards, that facilitates those kind of products, and that may debar the Indian products or Indian manufacturers from participating in many ways. So this is one part of the story. As far as legality of these requirements, whether the British standards or American standards, we should follow it in Indian territory. It is my considered view is that this is not logically correct. Now, if we refer to Regulation 12.2, it says that save as otherwise provided in these regulations, the relevant code of practice of the Bureau of Indian Standards or National Electric Code, if any, may be followed to carry out the purpose of this regulation. And in the event of any inconsistency, the provisions of these regulations shall prevail. We have to keep in mind the regulation is passed or is part of the Parliament Act process. So this is the national law. Nobody can ignore that. So the regulation has to be followed in Indian soil. Nobody can ignore regulations to be complied with. So as per the regulation, they have to follow Indian standards and National Electric Code wherever these are applicable. But unfortunately, these regulations in this clause, it says that BIS or National Electric Code, if any, may be followed. This may word can give some leverage to somebody to quote something else. So this Mukul Kumar and Mr. Rathod is there. What I suggest that in the forthcoming revision of these regulations, the may word may be replaced by shall, because it should be mandatory. If we look at 12.3, the next regulation, it says The material and apparatus used shall conform to the relevant specification of Bureau of Indian Standard. So here the shall word is appearing. So shall word will make it mandatory. And in the Indian soil for any projects is executed, it should be the Indian standard or nationality code. And it should not be British standards or American standard, because there are a lot of problems as far as electrical safety is concerned. There are a lot of issues related to the safety is concerned, which takes care of by Indian standard and definitely not the British standards. Legality of the whole thing would be valid if anybody follows the Indian standard in Indian soil, and definitely not British standards or American standards. I hope that my clarification will help, and my request to CEA will come out with a new regulations with what shall in place of. Thank you, Gopal.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. Now, anybody else from the panelists would like to answer?
Thank you, Devashish Sahab. Basically, we will take your advice, and we will definitely incorporate in our forthcoming regulation. That will take care, sir. Maybe the Kumar Sahab pointed out about the wind project, sir.
Make a pardon, sir?
That you are pointing toward the wind project.
No, this is Bombay, Ahmedabad, this mega train, the fast train project. Not only that, lot of projects.
Okay. Lot of projects and
Okay, sir. No problem, sir. We'll take care of that one in the forthcoming regulation.
Because the foreign consultants, they are accustomed to their rules and regulations, but their rules and regulations cannot be made applicable in Indian soil. They have to follow Indian soil regulations. It has to be there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sure.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for this nice answer. Now we have, a very interesting question, especially just to find out, the regulation in my view is very, very clear and very good regulation, but whether people will follow the regulation or not is the question. Now, the question is about regulation 14, 15 and 16, which is talking about the point of commencement of supply, the safety regulations or the safety requirements to be made by the electricity supply company at the point of commencement of supply. So I would like to invite James Kutty sir to answer to this question.
Thank you, Kumar. Good evening to all the participants. Say, as per regulation 14, actually it is very clear to how suppliers switchgear before the point of commencement of supply. There should be a switchgear before the point of commencement of supply. Then as per, it is mentioned as per the para 1 of 14. But as per para 2, it is mentioned that the switchgear should be protective type. You know what is the difficulty when implementing these? Some people will go through the para 1. Switchgear means even an isolator can be a switchgear. So some of the suppliers are installing even isolator in place of the switchgear. But in the second para, it is telling that it should be protective type. So it is making confusion. That's about regulation 14. So it is better to express directly the name to protective type switchgear before the point of commencement of supply by the supplier. This is now explained as 2 individual para. That is about regulation 14. Then about regulation 15. See, another thing, along with the regulation 14, I like to club it with the regulation 35 and regulation 42. You know, regulation 35 means after the point of commencement of supply, there must be a switchgear provided by the consumer. It is mentioned that actually the difficulty is coming to the LV consumers. There in regulation 35, it is telling that there must be a linked switch or circuit breaker. Actually, can we achieve 100% isolation either to the supplier, either with the supplier switchgear or with the consumer switchgear? It is not possible. It is not mentioned in regulation 14 or 35. Means 100% for 100% isolation, some wording should be there in either 14 or 35, because linked switch fuse or circuit breaker may not be with the isolation duty. You know, switch and isolator, they are entirely different. So what I am telling is, with the regulation 45, either it should be mentioned like this with the isolation duty. That is what I am asking for. Then when some suppliers are implementing regulation 45, regulation 35, they are mixing it with the regulation 42. Means there must be an RCCB. See, in Kerala, some of the supplier engineers are not giving supply if there is an RCCB is not provided in just after the point of commencement supply. Means it is actually violating regulation 35. Means as per regulation 35, there must be a linked switch office unit or a circuit breaker near to the point of commencement supply. But in Kerala, they are telling that there must be an RCCB in front of the switch gear. Okay, actually RCCB itself may not have isolation duty. So it should be made more clear. That is what I am telling. About the regulation 15 and the regulation 16, I think it is not that much confused, but needs some clarification. Regulation 15, the provision added after para 2 is making a little bit confusion. Otherwise, it should be explained clearly. Means about I shall quote the words. It is telling that the earthed conductor or the earthed neutral conductor should not be provided with the cutout or something like a protective element. It should not be there. Otherwise, it can be linked with, it can be operated through a linked arrangement. That is what telling that. But at the end of the para 2, it is telling that provided some provision is added there, provided that the above requirement shall not apply in case of a link for testing purpose or a switch for use in controlling a generator or transformer. I request to have more clarification about this provision. About the 16, regulation 16, it is explaining that there is an earthed terminal provided by the supplier. But actually, I don't know in India whether it is provided. It is nowhere it is such an earth terminal is provided. So that much about regulation 14 and 15, regulation 14, 15 and 16. I need the clarification explained regarding these three. Okay, thank you.
Sir, thank you. Thank you very much for the reply, sir. If I read, let us say, for example, regulation number 16, it is the responsibility of the supplier, energy supplier, to provide the earthed terminal at consumer premise. Am I correct, sir? James Putty, sir, am I correct?
Yes, it is correct.
Responsibility of the supplier to provide earthed terminal at the consumer premise. That is correct. Am I right, sir?
Yes.
The question is, are they providing, the energy supplier, are they providing an earthed terminal at consumer premise?
I don't think it is not implemented anywhere in India.
Yeah, I have never seen. I have never seen anybody. No, this says that earth terminal, particularly up to 250 volt. And beyond 250 volt, in addition to the consumer, there is earth terminal is to be provided by the supplier, but I have never seen a earth terminal is provided by the supplier.
Yes, actually, the earthed terminal, if we look at the historically the old standard, basically the British standards and all, earthed terminal during those days, 1950s, 60s, they were talking about a TNS system or a TNCS system. But if you read the regulation, it's very clear. But unfortunately, the energy supply companies are not providing a TNS or a TNCS system. Anybody else would like to answer? Appavoo, sir, your experience in Tamil Nadu.
Yes, what I would like to insist here is, we have forgotten one important provision. Generally, Act and regulation purpose of these statutory requirements are to afford safety to the general public. You can see as per regulation 16.1, the provisional clause, second provisional clause 16.1 reads, provided further that the supplier may not provide any earthed terminal in the case of installation already connected to the system. on or before the date to be specified by the state government in his behalf, if he is satisfied that the consumer setting arrangement is efficient. This goes without saying that it's the responsibility of the DISCOM, the supplier, to provide an electricity terminal. And another thing, if he wants to get himself satisfied that he will not provide, a date should be promulgated by the state government. Has any of the state government have notified such a date? Up to which date the supplier can provide or exempt the installation from providing an electricity terminal? So I think there are some things are missing. It is not yet implemented by the stakeholders, not only the DISCOM, by the government, DISCOM, and contracted everywhere. In each and every, if we see meticulously the each and every aspect of the regulation is beautifully drafted, but implementation is missing either from the supplier side or from the government side. Ultimately, the purpose of ensuring safety to the general public at large is somewhat compromised. It's my feeling.
So thank you very much, sir. We have Mr. our Deputy Chief Electrical Inspector of Gujarat, Khoja sir. He was just there. Sir Khoja sir, you can unmute yourself and probably we would like to listen to you.
Yes. Am I audible, sir? Good evening.
Yes, sir.
Okay, just a minute. Let me. Am I audible now?
Yes, you are audible. Very clear.
Sir, good evening to all of you.
Namaskar.
Namaskar, sir. Appavoo, sir, how are you, sir?
Good evening, sir. Fine. Fine.
Yes, sir.
Happy to see you
Sir,
after some time.
I have an input over this earthed terminal on consumers' premises. In the state of Gujarat, one issue was raised way back in the year 2005-6 in the era of Indian Electricity Rules 1956, whereby that date of something to, 1960 was specified in the Rules 1956. It was June 1960, if I'm not mistaken. So one argument was raised, and it was a big issue that was raised against all the DISCOMs in the state of Gujarat, that the DISCOMs are not providing earthed terminal to the consumers. And a long exercise went on, and the matter was referred to the Regulatory Commission as well. And at the end of the exercise, the Gujarat Urja Vikas Nigam Limited, the state-owned DISCOMs holding company, decided to provide earthed terminal to each and every consumer, residential of course, by providing an earth pit at the consumer's doorstep. That is based on TT system. Of course, we had raised the issue at that point of time that instead of providing earthed terminal by means of a TT system at consumer doorstep, it would be really meaningful if we make providing RCCB compulsory for that. But at that point of time, the opponents argued that ELCB, those time, as you, Appavoo sir, had told that we never, we are unable to leave the old jargons very quickly. So ELCB is a very popularly known term, and it was used, and the argument was based on that ELCB. We had argued that instead of going for TT system, we should go for ELCB. That would be really meaningful. Then the other opponent side, it construed ELCB in its true sense, ELCB, that is a voltage operated device. They did not meant it RCCB, current operated device. And they said that in absence of earthing, ELCB would be futile. It would be useless. And that argument was very correct. If we think in terms of the original ELCB, which was a voltage operated device. So ultimately, GUNL decided to go for TT system. And we have been receiving number of complaints from the public that the earth terminal provided under TT system is offering a very huge earth resistance that is being prepared by the contract through an outsourcing. And many times you observe a value of 15 ohms, 20 ohms, and so on and so forth. So, of course, this earthed terminal, I don't know in which other state it is being implemented, but in Gujarat, almost quite old installations have also been provided with TT system earthed terminal, and it is still going on. But of course, we made one recommendation to the CEA that this RCCB is mandatory 30 milliampere sensitivity for domestic consumers only. And in case of fire experience in the hospitals during the COVID-19 situation, so we have recommended CEA to make it 30 milliampere also for the installations like hospitals where handheld equipments are used. So let's see, I had a talk to CEA authorities and they have assured that it would be considered suitably in that. Thank you, sir.
Sir,
Thank you very much, sir.
Sir Rathore here. Sir, it is not only for that our hospitals, we are also taking care for that airport or the mall like a large, where the large number of people are the collecting. So
Yes, sir.
the recommendation will be definitely be taken care.
Sir, we have made one more. We have made one more recommendation. We have suggested that the threshold limit of 2 kilowatts should also be removed as far as installation of RCCB is concerned.
Yes. That is again one issue, sir. Yes, sir. Sure, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Can I have a comment, please?
Yeah, please.
Mr. Khoja has said about the legal process that has gone through regarding providing an earth feed. And if I have understood correctly what happened in Gujarat, I mean, to what extent it is justified to provide an earth feed maintained by a supplier at the consumer premises? Whether that is the intention of the regulation, or probably, in my opinion, the intention is to provide, instead of 2 wire coming from the pole to the consumer providers, it should be a 3-wire with the earthing connection coming from the supplying side itself, so that this there is a continuity all through is available, and probably the resistance value would not be, I mean, earth resistance can be maintained in a appropriate way. Probably that is my understanding.
Yes, you are absolutely right, sir. Lot of deliberations were made on this subject, and we made several experiments by going for TNS, TNCS, but at the end of the entire exercise, even we had gone, we had received one study report from ERDA also, Electrical Research and Development Agency. They had also recommended TNCS, but unfortunately, I cannot comment much on it. But it was decided by the DISCOM authorities to go for TT system, and it is really debatable the effectiveness and monitoring or reliability of that system. I would personally feel that instead of going for this TT system, it is always advisable to provide one RCCB in the installation, which will definitely trip even in absence of earthing system by giving just a jolt to the person who is coming in contact with live wire. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, Khojaji. We have actually a very well experienced gentleman from Kerala State Electricity Board, Mr. Shri George. He has raised his hand and I've allowed to speak. Sir, please, your answer, please. And Mr. George, to introduce him, he is always writing, a lot of advice, a lot of informations to us, and he is always supporting us in our safety awareness classes. Welcome, sir. We are waiting for your answer.
Good evening. That actually I want to.
If you can switch on your camera, would be better.
Okay. Actually, I want some clarification in this regard, because once you decide on earthing, once you wanted to decide on earthing, we need to have the supply system. That is whether we have going for TNS or TNCS or TT. First, we need to decide, the utility need to decide what type of supply system we want to follow. Then only we can decide upon the earthing system. The issue in CA regulation, in safety regulation, I found that if you go through the various regulations, it is directly pointing towards that is TNS system. If you wanted to comply various regulations at various points, TNS is the apt system for the supply system, because we have regulation 73. We need to have a earthing point at the consumer premises, etc., etc. So at the end, I found that TNS system is the apt one, where if you wanted to have all the regulations appropriately complied. But the main issue is that there is a lot of confusion regarding this this system of supply. So everybody is trying to follow as per these whims and fancies, and it is not TNS, it is not TNCS, it is not TT even. So my request for this CA is that if regulation need to elaborate what type of system we need to follow and the respective type of earthing, then only it will be clarified for an implementing point of view. Otherwise, everybody will be following different type of earthing system, different type of network system, and at the end, safety will be compromised. This is what I wanted to say. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Anyway, our Appavoo, sir.
Actually, Gujarat, I visited Gujarat in that specific case pointed out by Shri Goza. The entire system, most of the system I have seen is TT because it was already laid down. We can't change the history and geography of the particular area. The entire Vadodara area, the neutral wire was run on insulators. Not only in Gujarat, in Tamil Nadu also, it is run on insulator at certain system. In some system, it is run on brackets attached, metallic brackets attached to the poles, metallic pole or RCC pole, and it is earthed. So TT and TNS system or PME system in the distribution network is prevalent. It varies from system to system, one system within the system in the same state. So it is not possible to change the entire, replace the entire insulator and make it as a PME system in Gujarat. It is practically not possible. That's why they have suggested ELCB. It doesn't mean that we can't restrict the consumer or the supplier or the user by regulation that you go for TT or you go for TN, you go for IT system. It should be depending upon the type of installation. It may vary for the, we can generally say that for, say, for residential premises or commercial premises, you go for TNS, it is economic level. For new thing, it's okay. For the existing systems, it's very tough to change the entire system. That is why the regulation provides an opportunity to mitigate according to the existing provision and without compromising safety. We can't construe that CEA should insist a particular type of earthing system for a universal system for all installations.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
No, I need to just one clarification now, because the type of earthing need to be according to this one. But in Kerala, we can find that even neutral is not insulated. They are just this one installing the neutral load cross arms, means metallic cross arms, and it is creating a lot of problem. So if you wanted to go for a TNCS, no, what type of earthing you are using is okay, but you need to tell that what type of earthing for what type of system. But it is confused everywhere. If you are using an neutral bare neutral conductor on a cross arm without any insulator and the same being used as a earthing system also, there is a lot of issue with the, and again you are using same ST33 kV 11 and LT in the same supports. So at the end the safety is compromised everywhere.
Of course, what you say, I agree. But it varies. We should accept that it varies from state to state and within the system of the same state. And also, there is one more point important. What is important to address is that the TNS system is not universally understood by the user, by the supplier. They do not understand what we are providing. We have to ensure through, actually CEA regulation have come out with the standards for suppliers lines, concession of lines. There are several standards by CEA, and this is applicable for the consumer premises. We can't make MSCS 2010 to be entirely applicable for the supplier as well. A part is applicable for the supplier, and there is more specific provision for the supplier under another concession regulations. So these part they have provided. After seeing all these things, the CEA has introduced in late 80s the provision of RCDs, that is RCBOs now we call. So these are the things that after seeing the problems and mitigation, CEA come out with several intermittent solutions like oil filter transformer in multi-storied buildings or commercial premises or residential buildings. So we can't expect CEA to fix standards. Standards are well laid down. The suppliers, how the supplier have to make it is in IS 732 itself and IEC itself. Detailed standards can't be made in regulation. We have to refer, there is no other way. We have to refer the particular standard and the supplier have to enhance their system in consultation with the other departmental stakeholders. That's my
Thank you.
opinion.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Mukul. You have any answers to say? You have raised your hand.
Yes, because after listening all this beautiful conversation is happening place between Appavoo sir and Josh sir. So I would like to say that in our the proposed regulation, in the draft copy, we have actually tried to avoid this confusion at multiple places where this earthing thing has been used. We have said the earthing should be as per IS 3043, and the wiring and all those electrical wiring, whatever we do, shall be as per IS 732 up to particular voltage level. So we are trying to minimize all those things where we can have to have some confusion and all those things, because what happened once the regulations was seen by the secretary, he was saying that the material itself is a cumbersome, that voluminous material itself it is there. So he actually requested us to shorten it as much as possible. So we are just trying to do our best to avoid this confusion and to have appropriate standards for earthing and other technical things which we can have.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Mughal. Thanks for the information. Actually, if we look at the history of our regulation, of course, it has started from the British regulation. And now what Britishers do is the British regulation by the government is giving freedom to the energy supply company to adopt his own system, whether it can be a PME system, TT, TNS or whatever. Only thing is the energy supply company has to make, he has to first publish his the adopted system for public comments, and they have to adopt. Now, for example, in UK, they have the ENA, Energy Network Association. You can also Google it and you can find out from the internet. Energy Network Association, that means all the energy supply companies association. They make their own system. Let's say, for example, if they go for a PME system, how it has to be extended in an existing system or in a new system, in overhead line, in underground line. Similarly, if they go for a TT system, let's say, for example, for petrol pumps, in a PME system, if you adopt a TT, what has to be done? Or if you adopt a TNS, what has to be done? So like that, the Energy Suppliers Association, they made their own requirements based on the IEC standard. And here actually the things are very clear, because the regulation is very clear. It gives the freedom to the energy supplier, and energy supplier make the standards very clear. Overall, finally, the consumer premise is protected. Whereas in India, I think the energy suppliers, this kind of a document is totally missing. Anyway, it is time to go for the next question. Of course, once when we start the discussion about regulations, it's always like, a small topic, but a big topic, because each one of us sometimes read in a different way. The next question is about to Mr. Vinay Nagdeo. Sir, I don't know whether you can speak now. We will make a small test. Oh, we are unable to hear you, sir. We are unable to hear you, but not an issue. We have the question is about regulation 30, 31, 33, and 40 testing part. So for low voltage consumer premise, how these tests are practically carried out and by whom? The simple question is regulation 30 and 33. 30 talking about the repetitive test, and then 33 is talking about the insulation resistance test. 40 is talking about the retesting of, after reconnection, again you have to do the retesting of insulation resistance, and all the three are by the supplier. The question is whether the supplier is following it or not. To Appavoo, sir.
Yes. Coming to the regulation 30, it's applicable, it fixes the periodicity for inspection by the competent electrical safety engineer or electrical inspector according to the notified voltage of the state government. But the state, it will become viable only after the finalization of safety auditor. Since the safety auditor provision was brought in by the regulation in 2015, after which there were long delay in the state government by certifying the safety auditors. Actually, we can see that more than 40% of the accidents do occur in empty premises. So that's why CEA has addressed this issue and tried to answer it through the provision of electrical safety auditors. We could do it in a still better way that analogous to Bureau of Energy Efficiency, it has created a very good strength of energy auditors through examinations. And similar to that, we have to do something so that we can create lot of technical manpower to look into these omitted area, that is LT and ME installations. Regarding Regulation 31, it insists testing by the supplier. Actually, supplier and electrical inspector must depend upon the manufacturer or testing personnel for certification. Such a facility should have NABL accreditation for the authenticity of test and certification. So, as of now, what we are doing is the completion report we are insisting, and the minimum test prescribed by IS 732 is in letter. I don't know whether the spirit is really there, or it should be in letter and spirit. Then only the testing part would safeguard on installation. And above all, such a report should be obtained from the licensed contractor while effecting supply by the DISCOM, that is a supplier. But in most of the places, such an insistence of obtaining test certificate and verifying, it is very tough. It's a very tough job because of population of LT consumers day by day. It's getting populated. So unless we have some parallel testing wing, apart from contractors, the sanctity of the contractors report are also well known to us. In LT installations, it could be totally neglected. So this is the real concern. And Regulation 33 address the leakage before connection. Actually, it may be replaced by check test by supplier or EA. We can't have a visit on any installation and to check the leakage before connection. It can be a check test whether the contractor or the testing personnel have done the right job. And a leakage installation test alone can't certify an installation free from danger. So the design itself has been looked down by the inspectorate, and the contractors are licensed. We hope that they ensure proper coordination. After that, the safety certificate is issued. But when coming into the subject of high voltage test and other things, we have to really depend upon the manufacturer. So ascertaining leakage before connection is a tough job unless there is a strong binding between the manufacturer, supplier, and the inspector. And another thing with regard to Regulation 40, it insists test for reconnecting. A disconnected installation before reconnection or addition and alterations. Because LT installation, it is very tough to follow, and it is not feasible for the supplier unless the owner does it through the licensed contractor. So practically comparing, seeing the volume of work involved in every section. In every section office of supplier will be having several thousands of consumers. So the periodicity of inspection as well as the pre-commissioning test should be entirely made as a separate entity. And I hope that something like a pollution control test for two-wheelers or four-wheelers, appointing some other people, there should be some norms or agencies, of course, accredited in addition to the contractor. After all, above all, the supplier should insist the completion report in true state and check whether they have done it. That can be done randomly. While affecting supply, only the lineman will be there. We don't think that all the intricate purposes are looked into by the lineman or the foreman. So this should be applied and rethink whether what are the things that we have to provide additionally to safeguard and installation free from danger, whether
Yeah,
it is
thank you.
leakage or periodical inspection
Thank you.
or
Thank you, sir.
additional.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. See, our with our program campaign is mainly we are focusing on the low voltage safety of low voltage installation. We have Mr. Devdas also had raised the hand. Before that, I would like to make one small comment and then come back to you, Goswami ji. My comment is. Before COVID, nobody thought that all the world didn't thought that India will be able to handle this many people, the medicines and other things. But we successfully did that. Now, with respect to electrical safety, of course, the regulation is very clear. Low voltage consumer premise, the energy supply company is supposed to do the testing initially, then frequently, then after during reconnection also the insulation, at least the base minimum test is mandatory, but most of the places this is not carried out very well because of the manpower shortage, or there is who will do it, and there is no clear instruction from the government. As a result, the state governments are responsible for most of the accidents in the consumer premise. So this is a simple conclusion in my view. So let me go back to Mr. Devdas ji. We have to actually hurry up a little bit. You have to unmute yourself, please. You have to unmute.
Yeah. Thank you, Gopal. As you rightly pointed out, these are very important clauses, all the clauses that we have mentioned it. Now, very quickly, I would like to go through it. You see, clause 30, there are two aspects of it. One is how we are going to interpret the existing regulation, and another is what regulation should have or what amendments should be made in the regulation. So first part is that what is there in the regulation. In the clause 30, all these notified voltage issues are there. So it is to be self-certified for the low voltage side, self-certified by the owner. Now, there is utter confusion there. Now, in clause 30 is like that. Go to the clause 31, it says it is not just self-certification, but it is to be duly signed by the electrical contractor. So, self-certification through endorsement by electrical contractor. Now, we have another provision which has been added, the Chartered Electrical Safety Engineer, which probably Appavoo was telling. Now, Chartered Electrical Engineer does not have any role defined in all these tests or any self-certification issues. Only in the definition, Chartered Electrical Engineer was that is not good enough until unless in all these clauses, we ask them to do or authorize them to do something. Then second, another part is that about testing, as Gopal Kumarji was saying, that it is the supplier's responsibility to carry out the test like earth leakage, the leakage test, and also about the insulation resistance test before connecting it. So the supplier, we have to make supplier responsible to carry out this test or verification of the installation before he connects it. But that we are not implementing it. We have to make an enforcement clause making it mandatory for the supply company to do it. Then only our whole system will work. As you have rightly said, in the COVID, we have managed it with so much of population. Why not? This is a very serious issue as far as our safety is concerned. So there should be some verification regime. One of the options, of course, is the supplier should be made responsible. Another option could be a third-party verification system. So that's all my limited comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Rathordar, I have raised you the hand. Anything to add?
Sir, I thank you, Kumar Sahab. I definitely agreed with the Devasi Sahab. But so far as the Chartered Electrical Safety Office Engineers, the guidelines is issued by our CA. What should be the qualification? What should be the testing equipment with them? At least that much testing equipment has to be there with the Chartered Electrical Safety Engineer. Our ex-CIG Tamilnadu already told that because of the loading, the periodicity of the testing may not be possible. But it is not like that. If this Chartered Electrical Safety Officer, the licensed electrical contractors are there, like our COVID control, it can be done. There is no any. But only thing is that during this transition period, it may be the having the some burden, but after all, it will do, sir. So that is the only concern. And that so far as the chartered electrical safety officer, we have clear cut issued the guideline. What should be the qualification? Who will be the chartered engineer, and what equipment has to be there with the chartered electrical safety engineer, sir. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Actually, the regulation is very clear. The chartered electrical safety engineer and what kind of things he has to handle. Those things are correct, but the only point here is the implementation part. But before implementation, we should understand that these regulations, 30, 31, and this 33 and 40, these were existing since several decades. So several decades, these are there. It is the responsibility of the electricity supply company to do it. And if the supply company is not doing, of course, as a consumer, if there is an accident in my house, I would say the supply company is responsible because they are not doing any retesting. Anyway, keeping this in mind, let us go to the next question. The next question is about another big confusing regulation number 41, earthing. All of you probably are aware that whenever it comes to earthing, we are making a kind of, the two earth electrode for neutral of a transformer, two earth electrode for DG, body separate, and all these things. And people always try to refer that this is as per regulation 41. Now, I would like to invite again this time Appavoo sir and James Kuttiji for making the answer, how to read and understand it. Over to you, Appavoo sir. Regulation number 41.
Actually,
Sir, let us
regulation
make
41.
answer. Sir, let us make our answer very specific to low voltage installation.
Okay. Regulation 41 is applicable for installation not exceeding 650 volt. So we are using the phrases not exceeding 650, less than 250. So these are all the cumbersome thing, because this my humble request to the CA is to define the installation LT.
Sorry to interrupt you. I would like to add one more point. The 650 volt has been, I think, in the new upcoming regulation, it will be changed to 1000 volt AC, as per the, worldwide, all nations are following the same thing, 1000 volt AC.
Yes,
Okay,
sir. Yes, sir. It is going to change by the replaced by the 650 to the 1000 volt.
Oh, fine. And then it's nice. Actually, this is the regulation 41 is applicable for installation less than 650. So it states the generating station and substation as well, because you can read the regulation 41. It states, just to read out.
The last sentence of the sub-regulation 1 says generating station and substation.
Yes,
so
regulation 1 says, regulation 1 says minimum of 2 different earth electrodes or such large number. Also at the generating station or the substation. So these are the things that people are getting confused. 125 exceeding 125 volt and less, not exceeding 650 volt. Then generating station, substation, and 2 different electrodes. These are all the things that what people are getting confused. They think that each and everything requires 2 different electrodes, and it is applied for all the universally. It is applied because regulation 41 provides the most of the provisions of earthing. It's a very good regulation. It provides most of the provisions of earthing. The important thing is the sub-regulation 15. It states that insists touch and step potential limitation and equipotential bonding. So I don't think that touch and step potential limitations are being exhaustively done in the case of LT installations or domestic premises. And you can see the sub-regulation 15B, which specifically insists that the earthing system should be limited to sufficiently low to permit adequate fault current for the operation of protected devices in time. That is, the fault current should not make the touch potential exceeded. Even if it exceeds, it should be limited. So the duration of existence of a threshold value of what do you call the touch potential is the criteria. That is a generic provision that can be looked into. Hence, two separate and distinct earth connection must be treated as a stipulation for redundancy and integrity. So we think that we provide two earth electrodes for everything. People insist two earth electrode for a lift and two earth electrode for the distribution board. It all depends upon the configuration, whether as already stated, whether TNS or TT, and providing equipotential bond or for lightning protection, everything. There are earth electrodes, but we need not insist to earth electrode for each and every places invariably. So in my opinion, the two separate and distinct earth connection doesn't mean to provide more number of earth electrodes. It is for a stipulation of redundancy and to maintain integrity in the Indian scenario. Because if you insist to earth connections, then at least one will be there. So it will also ensure equipotential bonding and enhanced equipment. I don't think there is no harm in providing two separate and distinct earth connections, but it is misconstrued. So ultimately the purpose is to afford safety, and hence the entire regulation which are reproduced in IR 56 amendment during 83 to 87. These are the things that has been brought in the year 83 to 87. It should be modified with reference to the latest trend available now. I hope the present amendment is suggested in a beautiful way, addressing all these systems. We hope it can be put before the table before the all CIGs, and CA can come out with complete revamping of this regulation 41 with reference to latest trend, and besides avoiding safety. The generic provision is okay. You should not compromise this as a step and potential, and the fault clearing device should actuate within that time. This is in such a way the earthing resistance should be provided, should be our configuration earthing should be addressed. This is a general thing. I don't expect the regulation can provide all the standards with the sketches, everything. That should be referred. You should be at liberty to do your design. The purpose should not be defeated. You should not permit more step potential, and you should not permit the circuit to be operated beyond a particular limitation of time, which is detrimental to the safety of person as well as equipment. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Over to you, Mr. Mukul. You have to unmute.
Yes, sir. So all the things, sir, which I have spoken right now, Appavoo sir. Actually, the intent was that only, to reproduce that thing again. Actually, it was in the IS 3043 earlier also, and was reproduced at the time of 1980s. So just to put the emphasis for this, the importance of redundancy and integrity thing, so we have reproduced the same. Now we are actually modified the regulation 41 a lot, and we have simplified it, and in our draft you are going to see, like, it will come in like in the next month or so. So you are going to see that all this thing has been taken away, these two distinct connection and separate connection, all those things have been taken away, and it has been simply made as like the things should be as per IS 3043. But what my observation is that, like, a day before yesterday, I went for the inspection, and what I see that in the installations, basically there was a small transformer, and there was fastening point for the tank body on the both side. But what the people are practicing there, they are just fastening only the one end for the earthing, the rest, the other end, which is by default there in the material supplied, they are not fastening it. So this kind of practice should be inculcated anywhere in the low voltage installation also. But I don't know why people are not following. If it was there in the regulation, then it could have been like clearly seen by them, and they could have followed that. So
thank you very much, Mr. Mukul. I hope you answered. Okay, sorry to interrupt you, sir. It was a mistake from my side. Anyway, we have, a lot of questions to answer further. To conclude this particular part, of course, the new regulation is having a lot of changes, which is simplifying the whole regulation. Of course, two distinct and separate connections are good to ensure redundancy, but the regulation is not asking for two separate earth electrodes for neutral or for body and all. This has to be done as per the system like TNS, TT or so. So now we have another interesting question, which is from regulation 42 RCD. For answering here, the question is how the regulation 42 is applicable. Of course, sure, in the upcoming regulation, this will be also modified, but I would like to invite Devdas ji to answer this particular question. You have to unmute, sir.
Yeah. This question, as you have raised it here, as I see it, it says that the regulation 42, the supply of electricity to every electrical installation. What does this mean? Now, the regulation 42, it starts with the sentence, the supply of electricity to every electrical installation other than voltage not exceeding 250 volt below 2 kilowatt, and those installations of voltage not exceeding 250 volt. A simple request to my CA colleagues, Mukul and Rathorji. We can possibly make a language little bit very simple. You see, instead of going into too much of legality in the language, let us say we can this way, that for installations having voltage not exceeding 250 volt and below 2 kilowatt, and again it is going to 250 volt, this confusion is created here. But again, if I interpret it this way, that ELCB is a necessity for the supply voltage electrical installation other than voltage not exceeding 250 volt. That means is what I would say, it is up to 250 volt and beyond 2 kilowatt. I will say 250 volt, but beyond 2 kilowatt. If it is more than 2 kilowatt, then it must have an earth-legal circuit breaker. So if this interpretation, if I go there this way, it is for the installation. Now, many a times, what happens, people tend to insist on putting an ELCB on each and every installation. So supposing if in your house you are going to have a pump for lifting water, you are not required to put an ELCB as a requirement of the regulation there. It is only for the whole installation at one place, possibly at the immediately after the meter part. You have to have an MCB and ELCB, probably MCB and ELCB can be combined to make it a RCCB, and the whole thing can take care of it. That is the intention of the regulations. So I hope this is what that. Anything more, Gopaji?
Yeah, that's all, sir. That's all. Thank you. So I would like to invite our James Kuti sir also to have his opinion on this regulation.
What explained Goswami, sir, I am agreeing with that. Actually, he concluded in the way that it should be an RCBO, means MCCB with RCCB is a better choice. Yes. Otherwise, what you know, after the point of commencement to supply, the supplier is insisting to have an RCCB there. That's making confusions. If they are having 2 or more dBs, it will not be possible. So otherwise, if only 1 dB is there, it is better to have an RCCB with MCB incorporator, RCBO. Another thing I like to comment that for the whole installation, providing leakage protection is better. I think the revised draft is in that way. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. So basically, the regulation 42 is for the supply of electricity to every electrical installation. That means it is talking about the point of commencement of supply, not about every electrical apparatus or a sub panel. It is not talking about a sub panel. It is to the supply to a major installation. But we always should keep in mind that not only protection, continuity of supply is also important. Now, if RCDs of 30 milliampere are provided for each and every installation, let us say small scale industries and all, so it will keep on nuisance tripping. So, which will be another headache as a result of nuisance stripping. Probably people will try to, bypass it, which will lead to some other kind of problem. Anyway, I'm sure this is this part is has been modified. Mr. Mukul, you have any point to answer on this?
Sir, just the Swami sir has proposed and Kutti sir has well said that this proposal has been made irrespective of voltage level, and what we have done, we have made compulsory for a sanction load of 1 kilowatt and above to have RCD installed. So it is not irrespective of voltage level. And we have got some inputs from this discoms that if they supply in the slums and all those areas, the load is not 1 kilowatt, it's below that. So we have requested them to keep the upstream RCD so that the connected total sum of the connected load is around 1 kilowatt or so. There you can, at the upstream point, you can have that RCD. So actually we are ensuring the electrical safety at lowest level. Okay, because we are aware that in the low voltage installation most of the accidents are occurring, and this is the only way we can reduce the accidents. So that's why we have removed that voltage level and all those things, and we are trying to make it universal. That's the thing we have done in our proposal.
Yes, thank you very much. Koja sir.
Yes, Mukul sir, what I understood is CEA has proposed to reduce that threshold level from 2 kilowatt. But as we have requested earlier to the CEA that this threshold must be removed. As you said that whenever this aggregate load would be more than 1 kilowatt, then point of supply will provide one RCCB. Might not be practicable. So my request is to see that this threshold of 1 kilowatt removed, and this RCCB should be made mandatory for each and every installation, particularly residential. Because this should be and sir had suggested RCDO. So I am in agreement with RCDO, but in that case it would be very much difficult to attribute the fault either to overload or earth leakage. So if both things are kept separate, RCCB and MCB, then it would be easily identifiable for a consumer whether the fault is due to overload or whether it is due to earth leakage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for detailed elaborations of this particular regulation. In my view, personally, we have to take care of the continuity of supply and the safety as well. So RCCB for smaller installations are absolutely mandatory or okay, especially for TTE system. But once when the system becomes larger, let us say a low voltage consumer who is running an SSI unit with a 50 kilowatt load, at the point of commencement of supply, if an RCCB of 30 milliampere is put, probably it will lead to nuisance stripping. This also probably one of the point for discussion. Anyway, now we go to the question number 7.
Yes,
sir.
I just wanted to add it here, as you rightly said, because nuisance stripping, because this is not qualifying load amount is not mentioned over there, the upper limit. Now, if there is no upper limit is mentioned, then what will be the earth leakage? Is 100 milliampere even for a small SSI unit that can cause to nuisance stripping. So something need to be done as far as specifying the upper limit of the load to which this RCCB would be applicable.
Sir, I would like to add here. See, in Europe and all the other nations, what is done is, in case if the supplier goes for a TN system, in case of a TN system, the OCPD will do the job. The MCB or the fuse will do the job, provided the fault loop impedance is lower enough to disconnect the supply in case of an earth fault. Now, if you look at the IS 732, the wordings are again copied from the IEC. If the earth fault loop impedance is not enough to disconnect the supply, at the point of commencement of supply, an RCD of 500 milliampere, it is not 30 milliampere or 300, 500 milliampere has been insisted. This is what the foreign nations are doing. That means at the point of commencement of supply for larger installations, it's not 30 milliampere, but 500 milliampere if it is a TT system. Anyway, we can take up this for further deliberations. Now we go to the next question. Regulation actually planned for 1 hour 30 minutes, and we have about 15 questions, and we are still in the 6th question. Now let me go to the 7th question. Regulation 45, interlocks. if you have under the chapter 6, chapter 6 is applicable for regulations or applicable for more than James, thing from your system. If you can mute, that would be fine. Chapter 6 is applicable for application above 650 volt, and the regulation 45 is talking about the interlocks. So the question people generally ask is, for less than 650 volt, interlocks are not mentioned anywhere. Can we use the regulation 45 for application below 650 as well? And how this has to be understood? So this is always a big, confusion. I would like to invite Appavoo sir and followed by James Kuti for this to answer this question. Appavoo sir.
Yes, you have given a very good misinterpretation by most of the people in the field. In my opinion, what I would like to say is, there are two classifications. One is voltage classification of equipment, whether it be a generator or transformer. And another thing, voltage rating of equipment. Sorry, voltage classification of installation. Another thing is voltage classification rating of equipment. A generator can be of 415 volt, but it is installed in an installation of 11 kV premises. For example, a 415 volt ME generator can be erected in a multi-story building installation availing supply from the supplier at 415 volt, or it can be erected in 11 kV installation supplied from the supplier. So it is but the concept of interlock and everything can't be changed from the type of installation. In my opinion, it is applicable for the rating of the equipment, voltage rating of the equipment, because you can see the rule 2Y of the repealed IE rule as well as the rule 2 ZB, the definition class. It says that a composite electrical unit. What is an installation? It is a composite electrical unit in a premises. It can contain a 230 volt, 240 volt, 110 volt, 415 volt, a small generator, standby generator, etc., etc. We can't say that the safety provisions or interlocking mechanism doing synchronizing or parallel operation or independent operation. It will be applicable for the installation exceeding 650 volt only. It's not correct in my opinion, because the applicability is clearly furnished in the standards also, because IS 732 under class 1.1.G, they treat it as a LV generator and they provide various sketches which follows. IS 732 is following IEC. It provides a lot of sketches how to make interlock. Even IEEE makes the interlock. Interlock is inevitable for standby sources to avoid paralleling or to avoid mixing of neutral between the supplier and the generator. We can't say that it's a 14 volt or 11 kV installation only. It's a general safety provision applicable for the usage of an equipment. Similarly, what I have told, I again say that exceeding 650 volt and chapter 6.
Sir, your voice is breaking. Appavoo sir, your voice is breaking. Not much, not exactly. The voice is breaking. Probably if you switch off the camera, the internet is better.
I will mute my video.
Yeah.
Is
also
it okay now, sir?
Not yet, sir. Also for the information of the participants, we have Appavoo sir had made a detailed answer for this question, because not only this question directly applicability of the regulation, but how this is applicable, whether it's a 3-pole switch or a 4-pole switch, and a lot of intricacies are there. We have made a detailed report, and I just posted his detailed report on the chat box. You can download it and read it with a lot of pictures. Appavoo sir had made this reply. Over to you, James Kuti sir. Can you reply your opinion on this particular case?
Yes, I think I hope my voice is breaking in as it were. Anyhow, what I want, the first part is it is applicable for generators based on the voltage rating, whether the interlock, whether the neutral of a particular generator has to be interlocked during parallel operation to avoid circulating current or injurious harmonic current. These are all well explained in the sketches of various standards. In those standards also the LV is given. Standby is given IS 3043 and as well as IS 72. So I want to say that it is applicable for the LT generators, voltage rating of the generators also with less than 650 volt. Another thing, coming to 4-pole breaker, we people are always insisting 4-pole breaker everywhere. Actually, the sanctity of the neutral is that it should not be broken unnecessarily. It is clearly given in regulation 15.1 under the process clause. It is there that unless you want a switch in case of parallel operation, etc., you need not break the neutral. But it can be broken. It has to be broken for to avoid the parallelism of generator with the discom supply. So where it occurs, it doesn't occur at the generator control panel or at the generator synchronous point. It is at the tensor switch provided for the load or the switchboard. But once you provide it at the switchboard or at the load, why do you provide for the generator control panel, generator synchronizing panel, and unnecessarily switching the generator fourth pole switching is to be restricted. It need not be invariably done from right from the source up to the tail end. So people misinterpret this 4-pole switching and they insist 4-pole switching at the generator. If it is a single generator and feeding the load with the supplier, then it is inevitable. So my thing is, my opinion is, exercise caution. Don't break the neutral as far as possible unless it is warranted. For example, a single generator feeding the final load along with the supply load. You provide a 4-pole. If there are group of generators and they require neutral switching, neutral for single point earthing, a neutral switching is also required.
Sir, your voice is not clear.
In that case, you don't compel them to provide a 4-pole breaker to defeat the very purpose of regulation 45, which allows proper interlocking between neutral earthing and a single point earthing method to avoid stay neutral current. So these are the things we should not defeat. We should not defeat all these things by insisting invariably the 4-pole switch at every place. And
sir, you are not audible now. Over to you, Mr. James Kutty, sir, for a quick answer.
Okay. Actually, I have gone through the essay written by Appavoo. It is very good. I request all to read that one. Actually, in a regulation, I think it was a mistake about regulation 45. Of course, it is applicable to all the generators. Means even the generators below 650 volt. So it is applicable. Another thing about the changeovering system, the number of poles should be 4-pole, and for the other cases it can be 3-pole. That is also correct. What I am suggesting finally, we have to revise regulation 45 in accordance with the IS standard about these factors. That's all.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. We have the next question about regulation 74, protection from against lightning, the surge arresters which is used in the high voltage, the substations and all. I would like James Kutty, sir, to make a quick answer for this as well. Regulation 74. What the practice is, you are on mute now. What the practice is, the surge arresters on the substation, earth wire is taken separately, and in some states these are connected to separate earth electrodes. Some states it is connected to the grid. Some states, it's a totally confusing way. What is your opinion on this particular case, sir?
Of course, about regulation 74, as you explained, it is written that for the substation, for the surge arresters, the grounding conductor should be separately run through without touching the nearby conductors, and it should be connected to a separate earth terminal. Actually, it is not correct. It should not be earthed individually. Due to this wording in regulation, in many places of our country, the surge arrestor earthings are connected to a separate earth rod. What will be the problem? Because of that, there will be some potential difference in between the that particular earth area and the other part. So there will be some step potential difference. And about the other part, the connecting lead length should be minimized, because of the otherwise the high rate of rise of the traveling wave will be adverse. Every surge arrestor, be it LV, SV or EHV, shall be connected with the least lead length for best performance. But due to our regulations 74 para 2, the technical requirement is getting violated. I suggest to refer to IEC 60099 part 5 for more details before revising regulations 74. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. Now we have the next. So the conclusion is any surge arrestor, be it low voltage, high voltage, or whatever the voltage it is, irrespective of the voltage, if the line length of the earth wire, if the lead length is higher, high voltage drops at the lead length. As a result, the effectiveness of surge arrestor is reduced. So if you wanted to have a very good effect, very good protection for your surge arrestor, you have to make the lead length, the connecting wire length, as short as possible. So if you are connecting it to a separate earth electrode, of course its effect is gone. It is only for the namesake, it won't work properly. Moving to the next question, I would request Shri George to answer this question. The question is about regulation 70, 71 and 72. I've asked Vinay Nagdeo sir, but he's on mute. He's unable to speak, or the mic is not working properly. The regulation 70, 71 and 72. 70 is about guarding, 71 is about service lines from overhead lines, and 72 is about the earthing at the distribution. The simple question is, are the distribution companies or the power energy supply companies, are they following it properly? To ask this question, one of the background, when we go through the newly constructed highways across India, a lot of places, the road crossings, the lines are crossing the highway. Earlier, maybe 20, 30 years back, whenever the line crosses the road or railway track, of course, a guarding is made. But nowadays, this guarding itself is totally missing. No companies are following it, according to me. I don't know whether some of the states are following it or not. I would request George ji to answer this if you are online. I think he's not available.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sir, the question: distribution company or not? If they are following, well and good. If they are not following, how to handle? How this will be? What kind of accidents are?
Actually, this is supposed to be followed by the distribution companies, and I never find they are following it. And actually, the snapping of conductors, I think it is meant for protection from the snapping of conductors. Regulation 73, and all metal supports. Some of this 72, 71. 72 is for metal supports, that is linking all metal supports and then earthing it. Then 73 is for this one, overhead line not being suspended. That is for dropped, means snapped conductors being safety from the snapped conductors. What happens is that we are not following regulation 73 anywhere. So at the end, what happens once it is supposed to? This is what I just before also I told about the network, the particular type of network we need to specify. 73. If you specify 73 to be followed, we need to have a system of earth conductor which will we need to have a which will be in contact with the snapped conductor when it is the line is snapped, or otherwise line is snapped. But now what happens is that the snapped conductor will be there as live until somebody switch off the supply, because we are not using any protected devices except fuses or MCB at transfer station. And at the end, what happens? The snapped conductor will be there live, and the people or who is in people or animals in contact with this one get electrocuted. This is a very common accident that happening in here in distribution system, LT distribution system. Whether it is again another this system of can be avoided only if we are using a system of earthing all along the overhead line. That means we have to follow PNS system. Then only we will be able to follow. That is my conclusion about that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Overall, I would say the regulation 70, 71, 72, and 73 is talking about how to protect the life of people and property in case of a conductor snaps an overhead line and if it is falling down. So the conclusion is most of the utilities nowadays are not exactly following what is written in the regulation. I think I don't know who will bell the cat, how to ensure that the regulation has to be, the utilities are following regulation. Somebody should take, these steps and do it.
Again, another thing I observed is that there is a confusion regarding that. Is here in Kerala I observed there is a confusion that earthing itself, whether they are this earth conductor and neutral conductor is being confused, because here the earth conductor is being suspended from the metallic cross arm. So the earth conductor is being confused as neutral conductor, and what happens is that they will this one all the metallic part being bonded to the earth conductor. That is also a case in Kerala. So when if there is a break, is conductor snapped, the return conductor will be live until it is return neutral conductor will be live until either source is switched off or source is off. So at the end, what happens is that return conductor will be there as live conductor until it creates a very dangerous situation also. So at the end, the system, we need to specify the system, what type of system, and we need to comply this one correctly. That confusion is also there.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Koja sir, you have raised the hand.
Yes, sir. If the time permits, I would take 1 minute on this.
Yes, please.
As far as snapping of ST conductor, 11 kV conductor is concerned, as experienced by all other my colleague states, we are also facing the same problem. When the return conductor falls on the ground, it snaps and it remains all the time live. Whenever somebody comes in contact with that conductor, then a fatal accident takes place. So we suggested one solution to the state discoms and transmission company. We suggested them, because whenever the supply side conductor falls on the ground, then backup protection invariably operates in most of the cases. But when return conductor snaps on the ground, that backup protection does not operate because of the limitation of earthfall, setting of 20% earthfall and all that. So we suggested them to go for protection to provide numerical relay with broken conductor detection feature. So whenever any conductor breaks, whether it falls or not, that feature would come into picture and that relay will be tripped. So that has been implemented in almost all the feeders, 11 kV feeders in Gujarat. But of late, we have come across a situation when a far end transformer return conductor was snapped and that protection did not work. So now we are working on another solution that we have suggested to provide a metallic angle or metallic extended angle on each and every pole. So whenever the conductor falls from any side, it will first come in contact with that metallic part, which will be effectively earthed, so that the earthfall protection would operate. So that's what we have been trying to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now,
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Very
Can
much,
I have a doubt? Can I have a doubt now? Is it is that numerically is it applicable for LT system?
No, I'm talking about HT only, sir. I have talked about 11 keep only, sir.
Okay, okay. ST, LT, that is why I requested for a specific type of earthing, because once you have a network type of earthing and the protection need to be hand in hand. Though when we decided to have a better protection, we need to decide about the earthing, and the type of protection and the type of earthing need to be compatible. The type of system.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Now we will move to the next question or the final question. This question is for Shri Mukul Kumar. A very small question, but the same question a lot of registrants asked. The question is, safety regulation permits does the safety regulation permit construction under the overhead line if stipulated vertical clearance is maintained?
Sir, if you have studied regulation 60 and 61, in its sub-regulation 1, it clearly doesn't allow the construction of building under the line if it is already line is existing. But we do have infrastructural development and constants there. We are supposed to raise the height of the tower and allow the construction. Construction comes from some metro is going, any society is expanding its towers. So there we actually allow for the diversions for metro. If it is there, we go for the monopoles to raise the height of the lines. So because, sir, we have to take all the things together and we have to ensure the safety also. So as per regulation, it is not allowed, but we under the regulation 63, we just do the diversion, and for that clearance issue for that metro and all those things, things are taken from the clearance sector.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
1 minute.
Pooja sir, anything? Any point?
Yes, please, I'll take half a minute. Mukul sir, I'm very much in agreement what you have said, but the language of regulation number 61 is very clear, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
An overhead line shall not cross over any existing building as far as possible.
Yes, sir.
No building shall be constructed below the existing line. So now in the sub-regulation 2, they have given clearances. So this is most of the time misinterpreted by our colleagues and all electrical engineer friends. We understand that we can keep this much of clearance and we can go for the construction of building below the line. But it is applicable when you are compulsorily compelled to lay a line or to cross over a line over a building, then the line erector has to maintain those clearances. The building construction has not to be done by keeping that clearances. So whenever a line is crossing over a building or passing adjacent to a building, then these clearances are to be maintained.
Yes,
so this needs to be, made awareness, created awareness amongst all engineer fraternities, or there it may be suitably drafted in the amended Central Executive Authority regulations so that this confusion may be avoided, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you for
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. In fact, we have exceeded our time. And I would say we had a very healthy discussion. Unfortunately, Mr. Vinay Nagdeo, and he could not speak. Actually, a lot of informations were there from him, especially the systems followed in Maharashtra. I think Appavoo sir also got disconnected in between. I can't see him in the list. So now, if we keep on continuing, it will be too much hectic. We have answered some of the important regulations. I would request all the panelists and the participants that if we can make this kind of a discussion once in a while, probably once in 2 months, I think the system gets slowly improved. And for me, I think so far I didn't heard any discussion about the regulation, interaction with a lot of people, especially in a public. Where publics also, or the electrical engineers also can participate. So thank you very much for all the panelists, all the participants. We have a lot of questions, and in the chat box also we can see a lot of questions. We will make answers for each and every question, and we will put it in our website, vidyutsuraksha.com. plus detailed answers are already made, and one of the answer, question number 7, is already put. The others we will post probably tomorrow or day after tomorrow, along with the video. I also request the panelists, Shri James Kuti Thomas, Devdas Goswami, including Koja sir, Mukul Kumar, and Appavoo sir, plus Vinay, Nagdeo. If we can, interact a few more times during the draft regulation circulation time, probably we will be able to make healthy improvements in our regulation. I would like to listen to Koja sir about this particular comment from my side.
Yes, sir. I'm in full agreement with what you suggested, Mr. Kumar. That will really help in developing better regulations in a more centralized manner. Whatever ambiguities are faced by us as of now would be removed. So that would be the right time to meet once again at the time of this draft regulations are given comment on. And I would be pleased to join whenever you make it convenient to organize such meet. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Devdas sir, you have raised the hand.
Yeah, because this is a very pertinent question. In fact, I was tempted to raise this question because Mukul is there, Mr. Rathore was there earlier. I'm not sure whether he is there or not. It is the right question because this draft regulation is now available for comments. I'm not sure what is the last date for comments. It must be only 1 month, so already maybe 15 days is over. So let us have one online call with all the experts to comment on these things, on these draft regulations. And my request to Mukul, that while resolving those comments, let us have, you can make a small committee of experts who can resolve those comments, because there could be a lot of gaps in the regulation. You are doing an enormous job. It is very difficult to bring in a regulations and it is a modified form. It may take another 10 years to bring in another modification if some mistakes are going through. So you can make a small committee of experts to go through the comments and then decide about the final regulation language, because language is very important, particularly the complication in language lead to a lot of problems. That's all from my side.
Yes, thank you very much, sir. I think James Kuti
sir,
sir,
you are always welcome. Sir, you are always welcome. You can come anytime, sir, for the regulation discussion.
Thank you very much, Mukul. Thank you very much. So we would like to stop the program. We are sorry that we could not entertain much questions from the participants. In fact, somebody was also raising the hand. In fact, we will make this kind of sessions at least 2-3 times in a year, so that the clarifications can be made, and the doubts can be clarified, so that finally our goal is to achieve safety for people and property from electricity related accidents. As I said, our campaign VIDYUT SURAKSHIT BHARAT ABHIYAN, the campaign we have started during February 26th of last year, and now we are at the 87th program. We will complete the 100th program probably very soon. And we have exclusive programs for ISRO, for Indian Railways. I think Railways, we had about 16 or 17 programs with a lot of participation. We have exclusive program for BHEL and a lot of other corporates. Anyway, taking it up forward, thank you very much for all the panelists, and thanks for all the participants. Be patient, we will come back to you again. However, all the reports you will be getting, including the video, very soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Goswami sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very much, George sir. George sir, thank you. Koja sir, thank you. And Mukul Kumar, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.